What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Come On Knows. I'm your favorite host, bringing you all the news, and you're letting me know if it's factual or capital. Today, we have the infamous, controversial Charleston White on the Say Cheese podcast, and he's giving his reaction to the tragedy that happened in Fort Worth, Texas, with Lil Ronnie and his 5-year-old daughter. And before we get into that, I want to go ahead and give my stance and my opinion on Mr. Charleston White. So, oftentimes, a lot of people get emotional about what Mr. Charleston White has to say. And, everybody has an opinion and has an input. And, when I'm dealing with people like Mr. Charleston White, or when I'm watching people like Mr. Charleston White, it's very important that I keep reminding myself that he's just an entertainer, just like the rappers, just like a football player, just like anything you watch on social media or on TV. He's just here for one purpose, and it's to entertain. When you start treating these groups, when you start treating these people as if their first priority is to entertain, and then being a good person second, and having a good cause third, you will stop being so emotional to them. Now, not to say that Mr. Charleston White doesn't have key points when he talks, because he very much does. But I'll say that a lot of his key points are nothing outstanding. He's not saying nothing that we all already don't know. We all know gang violence is an issue. We all know that gang violence is something that we need to get a hand and control over. We already know that violence in our neighborhoods is something that we've been having an issue with. But with my personal opinion, or when you're a real scholar and you study politics and you study the greats like Malcolm X, or the best to ever do it, like Malcolm X, like Huey P. Newton, like Fred Hampton, or any of the civil rights leaders, or any black American philosopher, you'll realize that it's not gang violence that's the issue, and it's not violence in the neighborhoods that's the issue, or it's not the rappers that's the issue. The issue has always been, it's the same issue, power of economics. And you learned that from Dr. Claude Anderson. If any of you guys are familiar with Dr. Claude Anderson, I suggest go get familiar with Mr. Dr. Claude Anderson and his thoughts on power of economics, especially in the black community. That has always been our problem since day one. Before gang violence, before violence in our neighborhood, before the rappers, we started rapping because of economics. Right? Rapping came from struggling. Yeah, a nigga get on the mic, be like, I ain't had no food in the cabinet. Fuck it. I'm finna go rob a nigga and his mammy for the bed, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We rapping about struggling. Hence, that's why I'm not a rapper. But, right. Our issue has always been power of economics. And, although it's fun to watch Mr. Charleston White, when he comes on, he said, yeah. And yeah, y'all not gonna do nothing. Yeah, I talked about all your dead homies and all the dead rappers. You know what I'm saying? It's entertaining, but at the end of the day, he's not saying much. He's not saying anything that we all already don't know. And I don't think it should be taken as anything that's personal. You know what I'm saying? He's just here to entertain, make his money, and that's that. If you guys really want to hear people who actually, know how to fix our communities, I suggest looking at the greats like I mentioned, Huey P. Newton, Fred Hampton, Bobby Seale, and Dr. Claude Anderson. If you're trying to look for somebody to actually to gear you towards how to heal your community and what needs to be done, power of economics. Now let's get into this podcast, and we'll go further into my thought process on Mr. Charleston White.
From the area. So knowing what I know, this is a long-standing situation between the ape gangs and the hood fame. Nigga, it's been a divide in this city since these niggas been in elementary school. Ape gang started as a group of elementary kids. Hood fame out middle school kids. So these cliques that started when they clicked up in gang as kids. That's when I come about. So I've been their rival, I've been their opponent since they've been in school, huh? Most of these know me from the juvenile detention center, mid-level, JD Hall, the alternative school. Most of these know me from working with them in crossing their path through the juvenile system. So I've been having my thumb on this pulse for a minute. That was my fight with the Fort Worth Independent School District. My 40, go, boom. when I saw that video and it wasn't number kids in there with guns, and then I started following the rise of Go Yayo. So no, man. No. This is near and dear to me. We made the news behind this. This is how I became in tour with the streets in this city. The Crip and Blood. Cause I'm saying these y'all kids in they gang. So you got Crips and Bloods in the same gang together. Most of the OG that was doing the these was y'all kids and y'all nephews that's just doing this shit. So that's how I started fighting with the street. So when I seen this, and I know we know who done the shooting. The name just coming up that's doing the shooting.
Yeah, they identified the shooters, but they haven't. I guess people in Fort Worth may know, but yeah, publicly they haven't released the name yet.
And this was a kid who everybody had on the internet. This was a kid that made the internet rapping. I cussed out his mama. This the little kid talking me to everybody be posting this, and he ain't gangster.
The shooter.
He was hanging with J-Dub, and he was hanging. So all these were murderous children. J-Dub was a serial killer. He had 2 funerals. So it's been a beef within our city. This ain't the first baby that done got killed behind what these niggas done. This ain't the first baby that done died in Fort Worth, Texas. This ain't the first father that done died with his baby. Just last year on the southwest side, they shot up some shit and 2 babies died at a car wash with their dad. It was just last year. This ain't new. But because he's a popular rapper, the same baby that's being accused of shooting it went to juvie for shooting a 2-year-old in the Buttercups. This ain't the first time a baby done got shot. But because it's a rapper and he's a popular rapper and he's a well-liked rapper, now it's, oh man, this is sad. This ain't sad. This is normal. This ain't new. If you remember 7 years ago in Chicago, a man was getting into it with some niggas online. They beefing online. He go to the McDonald's drive-thru. They kill his baby in the drive-thru. It was all on social media. It wasn't no backlash, and they went online.
So, you know, we understand that, like I understand that violence in our neighborhood is very prevalent, and whatnot, my bad. And I understand that it's a real life issue, and, you know, we have to figure out how to have more sympathy for each other and stop doing, you know, the white team man's work. But my stance will always be power economics first, because every other community, what separates us from every other community? What separates us from the Jewish community? What separates us from the YT community? What separates us from the Spanish community? What separates us from any community that's in America? Why are we causing all the harm? Why are our crime rates so high? And if you look at what the common denominator is between us and everybody else and their crime rate is one, the injustice system, because a lot of the times more, you know, Black Americans are missed. They usually are the ones who are more likely to be charged unjustly. Like, they don't have no real evidence. They're just saying that you look like somebody that they know more than any other race. So that's one cause. And the second cause is economics. We are behind the ball on economics. Everybody else, the wealth gap between us and the YT community is really bigger than most people know. It's really wide. See what I'm saying? But I think because we see a lot of rappers, we see a lot of athletes, we think that it's not that big. But the wealth gap between the average Black home and the average YT home is huge. It's a huge gap. And then, not to mention every other race or every other culture, the gap's big between Black Americans are last in this race as far as economics. So when you mention that, and then you can correlate that with gang violence and violence in the neighborhood and see that it makes sense. So although Mr. Charleston White has a good cause, I don't think he's getting to the root of the issue. Let's keep going. And hence why his organization doesn't work.
Bragging about killing the baby. There wasn't no backlash for that. So this is the time Charleston come out and say, man, I keep telling y'all, I told y'all, this is where y'all become hypocritical. Because we have an obsession with entertainers and rappers and street niggas. We love them. But the common man and they baby can die every day, and we don't have this same level of emotional response or compassion. Our neighbor, our own cousins, our own brother, our own aunties. So I'm saying, man, yeah, it's sad. But
and it's not that we don't have sympathy because we're bad people or we're just, inherently evil people. When you get on the internet, you see white tee people comment underneath our post or underneath our news when it says two blacks kill each other and they get to saying, oh, I wonder why black people are like that. Why are they so evil? We're not evil, but evil has been done to us. And I'm not saying we're using that as an excuse, but we have to look at what has happened to us up until this point. Because in the 70s, this wasn't an issue. In the 60s, this was an issue. Rapping and gang violence is prevalently very new to us. When I mean new, I don't mean like your lifetime new, but new as in all the events that has taken place in America up to this point. Gang violence, rapping is fairly new. You see what I'm saying? And, you had to look at what was going on during those times when rapping first started. We could say, okay, so we had the NWA, niggas with attitude, Ice Cube and them boys. Why did they come out with a group called NWA? Because police brutality. See what I'm saying? So rapping has always been correlated with what has been done to us. So if we're rapping about killing each other, violence, that's frustration. That's lack of having. You see what I'm saying? Because when you have when everybody around you have $1 million, it's kind of hard to be mad or talking about killing. Right.
As angry as y'all think y'all is, this happen all the time, homie. And I hear people say, women and children off limits. Those have never been the rules. Who told y'all that women and children are off limits in the streets? That ain't never been the case. You can go back to the roaring 20s when the Italian mafia first come into America during the Prohibition era. Women and children have always been the casualty because all they say, if we can't get you, we'll go get them. The cartel will go get them. So who told y'all that women and children are off limits? Remember we started gang banging, y'all? And they started doing drive-bys and you would go shoot up somebody's house not knowing who was in there. Children and women got shot then, people. We kicked in his door. We took his main honey. Kill both. I'm looking at rape. I'm looking at kidnap. It's in the lyrics.
Y'all know about that pimp.
It's in the movies. So I just want to let people know there are no official rules. There is no real rule book to the streets. These rules are made up as they go along. There are no rules. The rule is it ain't no rule. It ain't no rules to do wrong. Man, children are off limits. No, they're not. Because I know some to get your kids if they can't get you. It's been done before. That's what started the war between the Jamaicans and Dallas back in the day. When the Jamaicans went and killed the woman and the children. That's how the war broke off and started.
Let me ask you this. Does Fort Worth, does it get more dangerous after this, or does the authorities tighten up?
It's already been dangerous.
So Sean from well, let me let him keep talking.
Do authorities tighten up? Because now this is worldwide news. You said it's a rapper now, so now it's a high profile case, and it's a kid. Do authorities tighten up, or does the streets get crazy this summer?
The authorities don't tighten up. They're desensitized to this. This don't move them.
So Sean from Say Cheese is trying to find a solution to this issue. Charleston White is just saying, this been happening. Don't feel sorry now. He ain't saying nothing. For the first 10 minutes, 17 minutes, or for this hour-long clip, which we're not going to roll through. I'm letting y'all know that now. He's not saying nothing. He just said a whole bunch of nothing. He just pointed out what we already know. Y'all feel sorry for people that you see on TV rather than people that you know in your community. What does that change? Okay. Okay, fine. That may be true, but what? All right. So if I start having more sympathy for my neighbor, that still don't change the fact that we still can't pay our bills. That don't change the fact that a lot of kids are going to school hungry in our neighborhoods and our communities, are coming from school hungry, going to bed hungry. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to have sympathy when you're always under attack and you're always struggling. See what I'm saying? So that's our problem, is that it's kind of hard to have those emotional feelings when you're always in a space of trying to make it, trying to survive, because that's what majority of black neighborhoods and communities are doing. While everybody else is coming in, taking up all our hair salons, the Chinese, buying up all our rappers, the Jewish boys. See what I'm saying? Everybody else does business around us. We don't do business with each other to create our neighborhoods. Therefore, our neighborhoods have no sympathy for each other. So,
because they see it more often than we do. We only see it when it's publicized. They see it when it don't get no attention. They've been watching this beef, homie. They don't watch all these kids grow up just like you. When they get the killers, it's hard for, homie, when they catch the killers and the killers are babies, it's hard for you to be outraged. We're in a legislative session in Texas right now. When we done that interview with that young lady who killed that kid who was trying to break into the house, homie, we propelled that lady into a national spotlight. She's now in Austin with a law that's being passed with her name on it, that people who live in apartment complexes who rent property can no longer be evicted for protecting themselves with a gun. She got a law change because of her experience. Nobody's gonna do nothing about this. These young niggas already warring and killing. I'm almost willing to believe this is what the police department want. But I know some people who work in the police department. I know some people that run the violent intervention prevention program out of Fort Worth, Texas. I know their spirits, I know their hearts, and I know this ain't what they want.
So we're going to go ahead and stop this right here, and I'm going to give my last take on Mr. Charleston White and what he said, this far. Remember, Charleston White's coming from a background where he started off wanting to help the community, trying to help the youth, and then now he's where he's at. He quit. Yeah, he turned his back. Like most people do when they're trying to do good for people who won't listen. But you got to remember, in my opinion, I think he turned his back because he understood that it's deeper than rap. You know what I'm saying? It's deeper than what he's talking about. You say stop the violence, but what are you substituting that for? Don't gangbang. Okay, then do what exactly? Once you take something away, you have to exchange it. If you want a baby to stop sucking on his thumb, you got to give it a what? Exactly. So Charleston White didn't have anything to exchange to them kids, and from convincing them not to take the gang route, not to commit murders and violence, not to choose that path. What else do you have to exchange? Not everybody wants to play football. Right. Not everybody likes school. So our communities are lacking other avenues for these kids to take. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If you go to other communities, they have a lot of different avenues because a lot of times their communities are rooted in economics. The pressure of making it to the league is not as high. In YT neighborhoods, my daddy owns the engineering company down the street. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to play football. I don't need to play basketball. I could just go work under him. A lot of black kids are not saying that in our communities. We don't have a lot of black-owned businesses to pass down. You know what I'm saying? The pressure of wanting to be those things, you know what I'm saying? A lot of kids don't want that kind of pressure. What? Get a regular job, make regular money. I mean, not saying there's not anything wrong with that, but you got to take in consideration some kids may not want that lifestyle. So that's why, being a criminal might be more intriguing. Being a gangbanger might be more intriguing than just being your regular. See what I'm saying? So we have to give something to replace if we're going to say, okay, stop gang violence. You should do this instead. What is this? Obviously, Mr. Charleston White didn't have the answer. So that's my take on Mr. Charleston White. Listen, I have nothing against him. I'm going to keep watching. He's funny as hell. See what I'm saying? But like most entertainers, he's not telling or helping the root of the issue that we're having. And we shouldn't be looking at entertainers for it. He's just doing his job as an entertainer. Right. Power of economics, people. That's the answer.